On today's show, we'll recap last night's wild win over the Reds. We'll discuss Luis Severino's shoulder. We'll preview tonight's pitching matchup because a possible Yankees trade target is starting for the Reds. And speaking of trade targets, someone the Yankees were possibly eyeing may not have a chance to come to New York because of his vaccination status. All that and more next on Locked On Yankees.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday, Yankee fans. Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias, and I'm joined by my co-host, Abby Mastracco. Abby, we have a few things to talk about today.
We do, and one of them is not Johnny Gaudreau signing with the Columbus Blue Jackets.
That is true. Actually, one brief thing that I didn't mention in the rundown that just happened literally before we started recording. The Yankees acquired Tyler Wade from the Angels in a trade, but he's reporting to AAA. But Tyler Wade and his fabulous eyebrows are back with the Yankees. So, and I'm not surprised, actually, because when I saw him get DFA'd by the Angels, in the back of my head, I thought, he'll be a Yankee in a couple of weeks. It's going to happen. I can feel it.
There was that moment a few years ago where it was like the rise of the Tylers. Tyler Kepner from the New York Times even did a story on everybody being named Tyler and why he was named Tyler. It was like kind of a fun little, the rise of the Tylers.
That's funny. Before we get into everything, we'd like to thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. That includes Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, Stitcher, and everything else you can think of. You can watch and subscribe to us on YouTube. Again, we're inching closer and closer to 1,300 subscribers. So hit that button. Also hit the like button and the bell so you're notified as soon as our videos go live. And feel free to comment. And when you get into your car, you can tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Yankees. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, last night's win was interesting, annoying to watch. I was frustrated just because, in my mind, even though the Reds had won 5 in a row and the Yankees have been iffy in their last 10, they're still sitting at 5-5, the best team in the AL East right now. The Orioles, who won again last night, 10 in a row.
They're unstoppable.
Yeah, they're a game over 500. So now the AL East is definitely the best division in baseball. Thank you, Orioles, for helping reinforce that fact. Last night's game started off where you knew something was up with Luis Severino because his velocity was down on all his pitches. You saw it while it was happening. You saw the radar readings and the score bug, and, I thought to myself, his velocity's down a good 2 miles an hour. And I have it up on Baseball Savant, and it was clear something was wrong with him. And before he gave up the back-to-back-to-back home runs in the second inning. So he only threw 43 pitches in those 2 innings. He went out to warm up in the third, threw a couple of warm-up pitches, and then they took him out. They said his strength test went okay this morning, but they're still going to do a CT scan to make sure that there's nothing structurally wrong with his shoulder. And I had mentioned the other day, I feel like every time I talk about these guys, something bad happens. But I was talking about Luis Severino and how he's pitched a lot this season, and he hadn't pitched a lot collectively in the previous 3 seasons. So it stood to reason that he would probably slow down at some point. I just hope that he didn't re-aggravate his shoulder injury, but his four-seamer was down a whole 2 miles per hour. Changeup 2.1, slider 2.3, cutter 1.7, and his sinker 2.1. So there was clearly something wrong with him last night, which wasn't fun to watch. And then the Yankees had to go to the bullpen and use 6 more pitchers. So it was that kind of a game last night for the Yankees, but they did win, which is good. No force.
Like they're going to have to limit Severino's workload. which then there's a domino effect for every other pitcher. That's how it works when you're limiting any pitcher's workload, whether it be in the bullpen or the starting rotation. Somebody's always affected behind him. But, coming off an injury like that, this is such a long layoff. It's tough for guys to build up to this kind of workload again after such a long layoff. And you've seen guys do it. And I remember talking to Jacob deGrom about after he had his elbow done, he wanted to get right back out there, and he had it in his mind that he was going to be a very reliable starter, which he was for a couple of years. But that's just not the reality sometimes in today's MLB. You have to take care of the elbow, and that means pitch counts. That means innings limits.
Yeah.
You're not built if you're not effective, then you gotta watch the workload.
Right.
But that's going to affect Nestor Cortes and probably Garrett Cole.
Which is
pressure on Jameson Taillon.
Right. And which is why, people keep talking about the Yankees, needing to make trades, and talking about them getting an outfielder, but they need another starter, which I would have said before the season started as well.
I've been saying it. I've been saying it the whole season.
Yeah.
Because, yes, the rotation is good, but if one falls, there's just not a lot of depth. It's like, and look, I haven't looked at Davy Garcia's numbers in a while, or what's going on down in AAA, because I barely know what's going on in baseball at all right now.
Yeah, I don't even know how Davy Garcia is doing.
I really don't know what's going on in AAA.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the sort of backup would be in case somebody did get hurt or just needed to take a few starts off.
Right.
I don't know what that would look like right now, but I mean, I've been saying all season that yes, the rotation is good, but they're one injury away from potential disaster.
Yeah.
It's just not exceptionally deep. They don't have the same kind of depth as some other teams do. I mean, yeah, I guess they could use an opener, and that's something that's been done in the Boone years.
Yeah.
It's not completely out of the question.
Right. Well, they have Clark Schmidt that they can use kind of in that position where, comes out, maybe starts and pitches 3-4 innings. JP Sears came in last night after Severino left, pitched 3 2/3 innings, did a pretty good job of limiting the damage there, coming out of nowhere, basically. JP Sears, I love that. That's one of the many fun stories from this season, because there have been a lot of fun stories so far. But the thing that was funny last night, and I will briefly talk about this, after the Yankees lost the way they lost on Tuesday to the Reds, which was a completely fluky thing. I mean, Clay Holmes literally could not grip the ball. You could tell from his first pitch, it was like, what is happening right now? It was so out of control and un-Clay Holmes-like that it was just a fluky thing that happened. But our Locked On Reds hosts were basically razzing me all day yesterday about it. And, I like to pride myself on the fact that I don't talk crap. I try not to. I've been watching baseball way too long, and I know that you shouldn't before anything major happens. Don't talk crap when your team is leading the division by say 12 games with a month left, because, you may lose the division lead and then get kicked out of the playoffs, Mets fans, in 2007. So I've seen plenty of things happen.
In other years.
Yeah, that, things have happened like that. So I felt like last night's win and the way it happened was sort of karma for them razzing me all day, because I could have come back and said something, but I just sat there and was like, one of my junior high teachers used to say, he who laughs last laughs best. And that was the thought in my day. And after Alexis Diaz struck out Aaron Judge, Jeff Carr, host of Locked On Reds, did a funny tweet where he said, Alexis Diaz better than Aaron Judge. And then he uncorked 2 wild pitches to lose the game. So that was the karma, and I was happy about that. So, yeah. I was also going to sing the chorus of Born to Be Wild on the show today, but I decided to spare you guys that from happening. So,
Okay.
Yeah. I nearly did it in my post-game video.
I didn't know that was something you were planning on.
Yeah, I almost did it in the cold open, but I chickened out. Yeah. Whatever. But yeah, so the Yankees, they've had 2 3-game losing streaks, still have not had a 4. So the streak stops. So now they can maybe start a winning streak. But again, it's Luis Castillo tonight. We'll talk about him a bit later because we'll be talking about Yankees trade targets. Now, we will continue our discussion about this, but first. So whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Blue Nile has simple online tools that let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. Their bench jewelers will then handcraft her perfect engagement ring, and each ring is one of a kind. BlueNile.com is the original online jeweler. Since 1999, they've helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring. So whether you're customizing an engagement ring or designing diamond stud earrings, online jeweler Blue Nile will allow you to create a bigger, more brilliant piece than you can imagine at a price you won't find at a traditional jeweler. Not perfect? No problem. There's a 100% satisfaction guarantee. You can shop stress-free with guaranteed free shipping and returns. If you need your special purchase fast, most cases, Blue Nile can deliver overnight, and every order is insured and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Make your moments sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. Locked On Yankees listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement, so use code LOCKEDON. Again, that's code LOCKEDON. Shop stress-free, find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. Thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. That was an adventure. Kind of like Alexis Diaz's 10th inning. That's right, because it was the bottom of the 10th. The Yankees had the runner on second, which was DJ LeMahieu. It was his birthday last night. And with...
Happy birthday, DJ.
Yeah, with the first wild pitch, he advanced to third, Rizzo to second, because it was so funny. I was watching the game, and it was like I blinked and looked up, and there were 2 runners on, and I thought, wait, what? And my brother said, oh, they intentionally walked Rizzo. I'm like, oh, that's right. You just hold up 4 fingers, and the guy goes to first base, because I was completely confused and thought maybe I fell asleep for 2 minutes and didn't realize it. And then the second wild pitch happened, and in DJ LeMahieu's postgame interview, Justin Shackle asked him, what did you see at third base? He's like, well, I saw that the ball got past them and I ran home. It reminded me of Mike Mussina, who used to have answers like that whenever Susan Waldman would interview him, and Kim Jones in his post-game interviews. He was just very nonchalant and dry, and that's what I like about DJ LeMahieu. He's like, yeah, I scored. I just saw that the ball got past them and I just ran, Yeah, one time Kim Jones asked Mike Mussina, I think it was at Fenway, how did you get injured? And he's like, pitching.
See, we honestly though, we kind of hate that.
I know.
Sometimes it depends, because if you know the player, you can determine whether or not they're being snarky and whether it's I don't know that locker room very well. Okay. I'm a national reporter now. I'm not on a beat. I'm coming in there, and if I don't have an established relationship with that player, I'm going to be worried that they're just being mean to me.
Right.
And then I get protective of my other media friends, and I'm like, come on, don't be mean to don't be mean to Laura Albany. She's dropping into the locker room just like I am. But then sometimes you hear from people no, that's just how he is. That's just his demeanor. He doesn't mean anything by it. And I'm like, okay,
yeah,
it's fine. But also now you're not giving me anything.
Right.
Anything interesting. And it's funny. I get it. It's funny from a fan standpoint to watch.
Sure.
Sometimes it's I don't know. I get self-conscious about that as somebody who is doing a lot of interviewing. I get very self-conscious. I get oddly sensitive. We're supposed to have a really thick skin as a reporter, but I get oddly sensitive when people react to my questions poorly. But I just, when players aren't giving you much, or they're just being so short, or interviews are short, I should always wonder if I feel like that's an indictment against me, but it's not when they're doing it to everybody else.
Right.
I don't know. It's so hard for me to watch.
Yeah, I would be like that though. Like as a fan, I think it's funny, but if I were a reporter, I would definitely think, "Oh no,
And
this
like
guy
I said,
doesn't
it's
like me."
different if you have a relationship with the person and you're like, no, he's just being snarky. That's how he always is. No one loves snark more than I do. I
Right.
just, I don't know. I get so self-conscious in those situations as a reporter. Like,
Yeah.
I know that the fans love it. I've talked to them before about like, like you just brought up, and there's other players in the past too, like other anecdotes and videos that get posted on Twitter, and I'm like, that would make me self-conscious.
But in the way he answered it, he kind of like gave a smile afterwards because it was, I mean, that's basically what happened. He saw the ball got past the catcher and he just, ran home and, that's how they won. And it was their 11th walk-off. And I can't remember the number of comebacks they're up to now. I think it's around 24 or 25 comeback wins. I will say that Stanton's home run last night, the one that tied the game, they showed when he first hit it, you could tell the trajectory was really high and it arced really high. But then they showed the side view on Yes, and I mean, he literally hit it off the top of the bat. And I don't know how, well, I do know how it got out. It's Stanton, and he's really strong. But there's a line in Major League where the fans in the outfield, when the team is doing horribly, the one guy goes, "It's too high," and the home run goes out, and his friend's like, "What do you mean too high?" My brother and I constantly recite that line all the time. So we did that last night after Stanton hit his home run because it was the same kind of, it's too high, and then it went out. But he's unbelievable, Stanton, with his power. I mean, opposite field, just, he's a pleasure to watch when he's on. And I really want him to do the home run derby. There's one slot left. He's still not, he said he's interested in doing it, but he hasn't committed to it. And I feel like he needs to be in it.
A lot of guys just don't like it because they feel like it messes up the timing of their swing.
Well, he said he wants to. Like he said he's
to?
interested because he's from that area and he wants to.
Yeah, he's from Van Nuys, I think, or Sherman Oaks.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
I know this.
Yeah.
But
Because I think that would be fun to watch.
We went to high school with a couple of my friends, and look, Dodger Stadium is just like such a baseball cathedral. It's a special place for a lot of people, and especially for somebody like him. And man, the ball kind of flies out there sometimes, especially when it's hot, because it doesn't get super humid. It's like a dry heat. Much better
Right.
When you walk outside and you're sweating and you need 2 cold showers a day.
Like here.
York, but really love a dry heat more than the humidity. Yeah, it would be really fun to watch him. Like he just has such crazy strength. And look, we've all seen the videos of his workouts, and we've all seen. I know you post the body issue photo of him all the time, but like
That's my thing.
Like he just has such like natural. I don't know what it is. Some people are just built naturally with a lot of muscle,
Yeah.
and as much as like he works at it, like he has such a slugger's body. Like he is just such a natural born gifted hitter, but the strength behind it is sort of unbelievable sometimes. It's cool to watch.
Yeah. Now, in case people don't know what Abby's referring to, usually whenever Giancarlo Stanton hits a home run, I put up 2 of the pictures from the ESPN body issue from a few years back where he's naked with water splashing on his parts so you can't see them. And the ladies of Twitter really appreciate it. And some of the guys of Twitter actually appreciate it too. And then other people are like, why do you keep doing that? I'm like, because it tortures you and it's fun for me to do that to you. Quickly tonight.
Like you love being provocative.
I do. Well, yes, that's my thing.
I like being unnoticed on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I sometimes get myself into trouble on Twitter. I try not to. I'm trying not to lately, but sometimes I can't help it. I really can't. So tonight, quickly, Luis Severino. Luis Castillo is pitching for the Reds. He is a guy that the Yankees are interested in because why wouldn't he be? He's, 3-4, which isn't his fault because he plays for the Reds. 2.92 ERA. That's the number you need to look at. He's definitely someone the Yankees could use. We spoke about why they could use him in segment 1. And so this could be a showcase for him. and other players on the Reds in case the Yankees want to have someone else come over, like a Brandon Drury, like someone like that to kind of like shore up the bench, or even like take over for people who aren't playing well, like maybe if they ship Joey Gallo off to the Reds, because hey, he would have fun hitting in that ballpark, which is notoriously not a pitcher's park. But
I don't see him as a National League player, though.
I know, yeah, I don't know. Bryce from Locked On Rangers would love to have him back with the Rangers because Joey Gallo is his boy.
Or maybe that's just me being sort of stuck in, in the past days when there was a big difference between the two leagues, and maybe with the universal DH, it's a little bit less pronounced, and I'm just forgetting. I'm just, remembering back to, the old days of last season and the season before that. Right. Well, I guess not the one before that, because they did have a universal DH during COVID days. But,
right.
But, the 2018, 2019, good old days, not good old days.
Yeah. The halcyon days of 2018.
Yeah, maybe that's just me and like sort of my, I don't know, I don't want to say National League bias, because that's not what it is, but just being around the National League a lot the last 5 or so years. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the change is now.
So the matchup tonight is Castillo against Cortes. And as I said, could be an audition for Castillo. The Yankees could be seeing what he's all about. They know what he's all about, but seeing him actually in Yankee Stadium and how he pitches might be an interesting thing for them. And, the podcast I appeared on last night, Late Night Reds, they basically asked me, the Yankees are 62-26. By the way, I love that because of the palindrome aspect of it. Should they make a big trade? I'm like, yeah, I want this to be like, 99, 2000, like when Brian Cashman would be like, oh yeah, no, we want to win the division. We want to win the World Series. So we're going to do as much as possible to do this. I'm not complacent with 62-26. Not at all. I'm still not comfortable. So yeah, anything the Yankees can do to make the team better, I'm all for it. And speaking of that, there is a person his name has been connected to the Yankees pretty much all season as a trade target, but something happened yesterday that will probably affect his trade status, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. But first, BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, plus NBA Summer League action, NFL futures, and obviously Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and even golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So the news came out yesterday that the Royals have 10 unvaccinated players who cannot go to Canada to play. One of those players is Andrew Benintendi, who was kind of like how Joey Gallo was last year, where everyone was talking about the Yankees trading for him. Basically the same thing. His name is constantly brought up as a possibility for the Yankees to trade for in a few weeks. And now that seems to have gone out the window, because the Yankees were pretty much one of the only teams that was able to go to Toronto at full strength because they got everyone vaccinated.
And how many more games do they have against Toronto? Like in Toronto? 6.
Yep.
Okay.
Plus, they could play them in the playoffs.
Yes, and that's a big concern too. Like, I would say that would be more of a concern. Yeah, the expanded playoffs are like the Yankees are gonna make the playoffs. That's fine. They've got such a big lead that the regular season, it should still be a concern, but it is not like as much of a concern as possibly facing Toronto in the playoffs. And I thought the comments were really interesting that some of these guys made. Whit Merrifield in particular said, I might get vaccinated if I was on a better team.
Yeah, like if we had a chance to make the playoffs, I would get vaccinated.
Oh, buddy, that really doesn't, that makes you sound like a really bad teammate, honestly.
Yes.
I don't care about the team because it's just, I'll take 4 days off, and it's Stephanie Epstein had a story. I know that, didn't play well with a certain crowd, but it's 2022. Not everything's going to play well. We're pretty polarized right now.
Sure.
Divisive political climate, to say the least, in this country. She brought up a good point, though, that like that's not a winning attitude, and it's not.
No. It's
not a winning attitude, because a winning attitude is saying, I'm going to do what I can to give my team the best chance to win. And what Merrifield's saying, we're already out of it, who cares?
Right.
That's not okay. What does that say? What does that say to other teams about you? Like, yeah, I don't think he's really on the trading block, but is he going to be in Kansas City forever? Is he going to be on a middling team forever? Like, that team's probably going to need to like tear everything down, put a different front office organizational structure in place. Like, is he this forever? How is this going to sit well with another GM?
Right.
With their teammates in the future? No. And like, Benintendi now maybe just cost himself a chance to play on a really good make a deep playoff run.
Right. Well, he could always go to the Red Sox, because they don't seem to care that they keep going up to Toronto with players missing and losing, because they apparently don't care that they keep losing to the AL East teams, because if it weren't for the 2 games this weekend, the Red Sox would have lost 7 in a row against their AL East opponents. And you can't... When this all started coming, Toronto's playing in Toronto this season. They're not going to be in Baltimore, Buffalo. You have to make adjustments here. And, there were some responses to the tweet about the Royals. Well, maybe the Blue Jays should play in Buffalo again. No, it's easier for you to get a shot in your arm than to, move a team to Buffalo. Why do they need to play in Buffalo to accommodate everyone else?
The AAA team has to play somewhere.
Right. They can't keep doing that to them.
Move the Bisons forever. Like, come on. And also, look, I was just in Canada last week for the NHL draft. I had to fill out paperwork saying, yes, I'm vaccinated. I had to submit 2 forms of proof of vaccination. And I had to let an airline worker verify that I didn't use a fake vaccine card. Like, I'm playing by the rules of somebody else's country, because I'm going into somebody else's country. And here is what some of these baseball players are failing to understand. All of the Dominican guys, the Puerto Rican guys, the ones who live in other countries during the off season, they have to get vaccinated to come play in the States.
Right.
They can't get into the States without being vaccinated. So this is like a uniquely American thing right now. And I love how everybody's saying like, oh, my body, my choice. It's a really insensitive comment to make, because getting pregnant isn't contagious.
Exactly.
COVID is contagious.
You can kill other people with COVID. Yeah. You can't kill other people with your pregnancy.
So the whole my body, my choice thing, you might want to rethink that as your slogan and stop. I saw I stupidly read the comments on Stephanie's story. I shouldn't have done that. I never read the comments, but there was a lot of like, oh, what happened to the my body, my choice thing? People are pretty upset about Roe v. Wade, but why don't you apply the same logic to vaccines? Well, pregnancy
again.
So it's, you might want to like check yourself when using that logic.
Mm-hmm.
But you
and it's not just the Royals, because the Phillies are up there right now, and they're without a few key players. And one of them, we spoke about this before we recorded. JT Realmuto was basically like, I'm fine losing a little bit of money to not play.
And that's what the NHL did, was they docked pay if you missed games, if you were unvaccinated and you were on like the COVID list, or you couldn't get into Canada. And that's basically how they got pretty much everybody on board and everybody vaccinated.
Yeah.
JT Realmuto's comment was exceptionally tone deaf.
Yeah, his little bit of money is like over $200,000, which is life-changing for most people.
God, like at a time when so many people are struggling to pay their bills, to fill up their gas tanks, just to get to work, to put food on the table for their families or even for themselves. And JT Realmuto's like, I'm fine losing $250,000. Yeah, that's chump change. Dude, read the room. Come on.
I sometimes think that they shouldn't talk to baseball players because there's been a few instances in the last 3 weeks where these guys have said, oh, was it Chris Bassett of the Mets? Was it him? Who was it from the Mets who said, I didn't really show any symptoms, and next time I'm positive with COVID, I might not say anything?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't know. But I've also just been in like,
Oh, you missed that whole thing? I think it was last week. Yeah, he basically...
It would come from like somebody from the Mets, of course.
Yeah, he came out and basically said, oh, well, I didn't really show any symptoms other than... He's like, I didn't really show symptoms. I was just fatigued. I'm like, fatigue is a symptom of COVID, dum-dum. And then he's like, so maybe I won't tell them next time. One, thinking that is dumb, but two, saying it to reporters is so stupid because of course they're going to put that out there. So now everyone thinks you're a dumbass because you're basically admitting, oh, if I have COVID, I'm not going to tell anyone. And then, oh, are you going to get the entire clubhouse sick with COVID? What is wrong with you?
Yeah. And like, it's such a weird thing to have to ask players about their health, but like we do, we have to ask them about their elbow, about their knee, about their back. And we look, we used to ask them, we still do. I had to ask several guys who I was on road trips with, knowing that they were sick, knowing they had the stomach flu, knowing they had, I don't know, strep throat or something. Like, hey, you good? You going to play tonight? It's such a strange thing to have to ask people about now. Like, I don't even know. I struggled with it a lot this season, like during the hockey season, having to ask guys about like, adjusting to protocols and when Omicron spread through locker rooms and they closed locker rooms have still been closed in hockey. But like, I still don't always know how to like phrase it, and I don't know how to approach the conversation. We're figuring that out as we go and as things change.
Yeah.
But there's still just like some of these comments make you sound really selfish. And some of the comments that baseball players, and not just baseball players, but other athletes too, are making are just very
tone deaf,
out of touch with reality.
Yeah.
And there is I think maybe this is when we start to see how out of touch athletes can be with reality. We saw this during the negotiations during the lockout, and as much as like the fans are important and they want to acknowledge and appreciate the fans, I don't know if some of these issues are helping with that.
Right. So again, tonight, Luis Castillo, possible audition for the Yankees, maybe. Although, obviously the fan in me doesn't want him to do that well. I would like for the Yankees to win. It'll be interesting to see how he does at Yankee Stadium and how the Yankees perform against him. And Nestor Cortes, we'll see if he rebounds if he starts against the Red Sox. And speaking of the Red Sox, the Yankees are playing them again this weekend, although this time in Yankee Stadium. Maybe there won't be any weird shenanigans, but you never know because it's Yankees-Red Sox. And tomorrow, I will be doing a crossover with Jeff Carr of Locked On Reds, who I spoke about earlier. So we'll see what happens tonight. And we'll see if I have to yell at him on the crossover tomorrow, which should be kind of fun. Because I didn't record yesterday, I might do 2 shows tomorrow. Just a programming note. I might do the crossover with Jeff, and then I might do a preview of Yankees-Red Sox, because everyone loves previews of Yankees-Red Sox. It's the best rivalry in sports, or whatever. So for now, that's it for this episode of Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Abby and I would like to remind you that you can listen to the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can watch and subscribe to us on YouTube. Again, like and comment, click the bell notification so you know when our videos go up. And when you get into your car, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On MLB Prospects. Make your second listen of the day Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia. Seriously, he is. And he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. One more thing, if you could be so kind, please rate the podcast and spread the word about this podcast to your fellow Yankee fans. We would really appreciate it. So enjoy your Thursday, and I will talk to you a lot tomorrow.